Hello, everyone. I am Brady Briggs here back for another episode of the Combat Logic. Joining me back is Tyler Avery. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
Good, good. Today we're going to be talking about Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3. You know what happened in the fight and what could be next for them. I want to start out by a lot of people were really upset that this fight was even signed, especially after Anthony Joshua lost to Alexander Usyk last month. So Joshua lost to him. He almost got knocked out in the 12th round. And then he doesn't have Tyson Fury to fight anymore because
Right.
he just lost. And now the
A
biggest
lot
fight
of
in
stock in
boxing.
that fight got removed after that loss.
Yeah, man, it's really unfortunate because there was three kings at lightweight. They were all undefeated for the longest time. Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, and Tyson Fury. No, we've only seen one of those fights, but at least we got to see it three times. So let's talk about the first fight for a minute. Tyson Fury won 10 rounds of that fight and got knocked down in two of them. It was a draw. A lot of people thought Wilder won because they thought Fury had a slow 10 count, and a lot of people thought Fury won because he outboxed him the entire time. So then they go into the rematch. Fury just runs right through him in 7 rounds. And this fight was much, much different than their first two. Why don't you walk me through this one a little bit?
So at the start, it just started to give me a feel that Deontay Wilder has been working on actual boxing fundamentals quite a bit. He
Yeah.
started opening up to the body. I think he was trying to soften up the body or maybe hurt him to the body, and then hopefully a shot to the head would open up. Tyson Fury seemed to just weather through the body punches really well, and he didn't really get too hurt. Yeah, I don't feel like he got hurt to the body at all, really, that fight. But I feel like that might have been a strategy, was to wear down the body early, and then maybe that would leave his head open. And they expected a lot more head movement. I think they
Mm,
expected um, Fury to move around a lot more like he did last time, and now he was a little more stationary, shelled up, and countered a lot. And
yeah, those
he
jabs
started to
sorry, what?
use the jab, like you were saying, later in the fight, and it started to
Mm-hmm.
become really successful.
Yeah, that jab that Deontay was using to open up the fight was such a great idea because he started following it with crosses to the body, and a lot of those were landing too, and they're hard punches. And I was like, I was still confident that Fury would win, but I was like, dude, this might open up a really heavy shot upstairs because he's hitting him to the body a lot. And Fury's head
Yeah.
movement defense is really good, but he did end up getting clipped a couple times. Was he knocked Deontay down once, right? And then he got knocked down twice before he ended up finishing him.
I'm and that sounds about right. I there's one or two. I keep mixing up in my head whether there's one or two knockdowns
Yeah, there's a lot of
early in
rounds
the
in that
fight
fight.
versus Wilder. But I think you might be right, actually.
Yeah, because I remember after Deontay Wilder knocked him down twice, Fury had 3 knockdowns on him, and Wilder had 4 knockdowns on Fury throughout their 3 fights collectively. Fury really looked incredible in this fight, man. He overcame a lot of adversity. When he got dropped twice, I think it was the fourth round. It was either the fourth or fifth. I think it was the fourth. He got dropped twice in that round, and you could see it on his face. He stayed on the canvas for a minute each time. Like he was hurt, and he came back and just used his boxing skills, and he mauled him really. I
Yeah,
thought that he should stop tying up with him because he kept trying to weigh on him. And I was like, yeah, that's making Deontay tired. But if you would just separate and let go, you'd probably knock him out. And he ended up doing it in the round 11.
right. Yeah, I feel like both of their stock went up a little bit, but we really saw that Tyson Fury, the way to beat him, we saw the epitome of a power puncher versus him, and we
Yeah.
found that it takes more than that. Uh, you actually got to outbox him to win, and that's
Mm-hmm.
a really hard task to do at the
I don't think
heavyweight
anyone can
division the
do it.
way it is now. Not right now, not the way
Yeah.
it looks right now. I feel like Joshua would have had an even harder time, and he probably would have got stopped earlier.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I just want to say I'm really impressed with Wilder, to be honest with you, because yeah, we saw training footage of him, right? But he hadn't fought in a year and a half. And first off, that's, not really good for anybody. And secondly, working on fundamentals and showing them in a fight are two completely different things. He's literally never done that before. He had 44 fights going into this fight. We'd never seen him use it. And he actually did this time. I was
The most
very
growth
surprised
he's
about
ever
that.
really had.
What's that?
It's the most growth I've ever really seen from him so far.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I hope getting brutally knocked out like that after a straight up war, like they fought for over 30 minutes and then he got KO'd at the end of it. I hope that he doesn't come back, lesser than he showed up on Saturday. I hope he at least comes back as the same as he did on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he'll come back because we remember the last time he had a lot of excuses and stuff, and I feel like it goes to show how you're taking your losses. He had a ton of different excuses, and even in this one, he started saying, I don't know if it was Deontay himself or someone in Deontay's team, but they were complaining about the gloves and they were complaining about a bunch of things early on. Now people are bringing up that he has a broken hand. Like, this is a part of boxing. This isn't new. You know how many boxers have fought through broken hands? It ends up coming down to you versus him. Both of the same things can happen to the both fighters. The better man will win, regardless of broken hands, injuries. That's part of it being durable. That's part of punching with certain techniques. And when you're throwing big bombs only, like, you gotta expect that that's gonna happen. You're not just
Right.
you're not even technically boxing all night. Like,
He never
your
did.
hands might last through that, but just throwing the hardest haymakers that maybe the heavyweight division has seen in the last 30 years, like, yeah, your hand might break.
Yeah, I can't believe he made it to 42-0 like that. Like, he literally had zero boxing fundamentals his whole career up until Saturday. It's remarkable. And yeah, with the excuses thing, it really drives me nuts, dude, because I don't really remember him being like this before until like the Fury rematch. But then again, he hadn't really lost until then. So,
Exactly.
but
That's what it comes down to. I mean, if you look at it, he has a crazy good resume. Like,
no, he really
he's
does.
fought a lot of people, and almost every single one of them he's knocked out brutally.
The only person he's fought that he hasn't knocked out is Tyson Fury, and there's another guy he went 12 rounds with that he knocked out in the first round of the rematch.
Yeah, it's actually remarkable.
It really is.
He's like I think his name is Tommy Hearns.
Yeah, Tommy Hearns.
He's like a heavyweight Hearns. Like, he's long, rangy, but has like that weird long power that it translates to sharp explosive power that you don't always see in lanky long guys.
Right.
He probably would have been an athlete in almost any sport. He probably could have been a really good like wide receiver in the NFL. He probably could have been anything, basically,
That he put his mind to,
basketball
yeah.
player.
And he started boxing late too. He was like 18, 19 years old, 20 years old when he started boxing, and he did it to support his daughter who had medical issues. So he didn't even do it because he wanted to. So yeah, I definitely believe he could have.
He just wanted to use his athletic ability.
Yeah, I think he could have done anything that he wanted to as well. Absolutely. But as far as the evolution goes, he is 35 years old. He's turning 36 in about a week and a half. So it's really hard to say how he'll do. He is a heavyweight. Heavyweights in boxing oftentimes go later, just like in MMA. So yeah, hopefully he's got some good fights left in him. And for Tyson Fury, man, I don't even know if he's ever looked that good. And maybe when he beat Wladimir Klitschko, that was a pretty boring fight. But dude, he looks so good on Saturday. Like, what's next for him?
Absolutely. I think that the only thing that isn't in its prime for Tyson Fury is him physically, I think. I think that's the only place that there's room for improvement. I was watching some of his older fights when he was younger. He had abs. Like, the guy, yes, I was watching an old fight of his and he looked like a completely different guy. And it's like, man, if he could have the IQ and ability that he has now and maybe sharpen up the physique a little bit, he would just be a little bit faster, a little bit, stronger. He'd be able to have a little bit more cardio. It would probably help him out in the long run.
That's so crazy, man. I never could picture him with abs.
Yeah,
that's really something.
I saw him really young in his career, and I was like, man, that, like, it wasn't even that long ago. So it's like, man, if he could get to that, I feel like that would make a difference in his career.
Yeah, man, it really, really could.
I feel like
And
sometimes I give too much credibility to physique and appearance and stuff, but uh, I think in heavyweight boxing, it's a huge advantage to be in good shape
yeah,
because
it
it's a
is.
rare commodity to have at that weight.
Because, dude, their title fights are 36 minutes long. And especially for someone that looks like him, you wouldn't even think he could go 36 minutes, or, Andy Ruiz Jr., for instance. But Fury's now 31-0-1. Wilder is now 42-2-2, or 42-2-1, rather. My bad. A lot of people have bitched about Tyson Fury's pillow hands in the past. He hasn't been showing those lately. He's showing he's got some real power. That's also good to see because he's got all the technique in the world.
Yeah, he's not super explosive, but
Yeah,
when he
right.
hits, he pushes through his target. Like he's a
Hmm.
big, massive man, and his fist does
He
not feel
really
good.
is. He's
He- He's
6'9".
he's just not blinding fast.
Holy shit, he's got an 85-inch reach too. I wonder what Deontay's is. Deontay's is 83. Long, 2 inches
Here's an
shorter, two
old
inch less
picture of
reach.
Tyson Fury. I don't know if you can see it.
I can see the definition in his head. Yeah, you can see that's his face too. Wow, that's
It's
crazy.
him.
I was almost
I
thinking you
watched a
were talking
few.
about
I
one of his
watched a
brothers
few.
or something. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, he blew way up. And like here's another one of him. He almost looks like a light heavyweight.
Yeah, dude, he does. He's got hair too.
Yeah.
Damn,
He
man.
looks a lot younger, but it's really not that long ago.
Right. That's crazy. I wonder that had to have been his professional career, right? Like their amateur careers, they don't usually take
Professional. He was
videos.
just young
Yeah.
in his professional career.
An interesting fact about these two, Wilder and Fury, they both had 35 amateur fights. Wilder won 30 of them and Fury won 31 of them. I just thought that was an interesting fact to throw out there. Who would you like to see? Seems like we can't see him fight Anthony Joshua. Who would you like to see Tyson Fury fight next? I mean, it's got to be Usyk, right? You'd think.
I mean, I think we're gonna start seeing, some people who aren't in the limelight get their shot.
Yeah,
Uh,
I could see that
he's
too.
he's got. There's gonna be a little bit before we get some big money fights. They might even give Usyk a couple other fights before to try to build the hype up on him a little bit.
Honestly, I wouldn't be upset at that. That's a good idea.
Because
Oh.
with Ruiz, it died out fast. People were talking Fury Ruiz, and
Hmm.
now no one's talking Fury Ruiz. But
I mean, they could still make that because Ruiz is coming off a win over Chris Arreola at this point.
I feel like Wilder Ruiz makes sense.
That's a good
And
fight. I wanted to see that for about a year now.
the winner of Wilder Ruiz faces Joshua, and then the winner of
Fuck
that can
yeah.
get a rematch at or a fight with Fury. But I don't know how that works with a fourth fight.
Uh-huh. I think yeah, Fury and Usyk could be held a little bit because Usyk has been champion for like 10 minutes. Fury's been on top for a long time. He left and then came back and he's still on top. I'd like to see, I don't know, maybe Fury and Ruiz, and then I'd really like to see Wilder and Joshua. It seems like they're both coming off title fight defeats. That would be a really good fight. I wanted to see that one for a long time too. I think Joshua is definitely the better boxer, but I think he gets hit, and I think Deontay would probably take it. How would you say?
While I feel like Wilder would finish him within 4 rounds.
Yeah, yeah, I
Absolutely.
could see
He'll
that.
open if he opens up to the body the same way as he did. Uh, I feel like one of those shots to the head eventually you're gonna sneak through.
Yeah. How about Wilder and Usyk? Because Usyk is a new champion. Wilder didn't just lose the belt, but just
That
fought the
does
best in
make
the world.
sense. I feel like that'd be a fight that Wilder would want right now. I don't know if that's a fight that Usyk wants right now. Uh,
Yeah,
but I'm not sure what Usyk would want right now. He's in an interesting predicament.
he is.
I think what Usyk wants right now, if he's confident, is to rematch Joshua and beat him again because
Hmm.
when you have a name in front of you like Joshua, and you can beat him, and you want to prove that things weren't a fluke, and you want to get that big payday with a big fight with a big name again, you take that fight, that rematch again, I would think.
That's actually a good point, because Joshua was the champion going into that fight and he lost. That means he has a rematch clause in his contract, because that's what they do in boxing. So yeah, we might actually see that rematch. That'd be cool, because especially if Joshua wins, he would have avenged his only 2 losses. That's not like being undefeated, but that's like the next best thing to being undefeated. He may have underestimated Usyk. I mean, Usyk was only 18-0 going into that fight. What people don't know, he's 335-15 as an amateur. Like dude, he's got 300 more fights than Tyson Fury, literally. Like, that's remarkable.
I think that the only fights that make sense for Usyk is the rematch or a Tyson Fury fight, but I think the rematch makes even more sense right now.
Yeah, I agree. See, he was an Intercontinental champion before he beat Joshua. Then he won 4 belts by beating Joshua. I mean, I wish that, I wish these fights would actually be made, because if they ever do, it's almost always too late. Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford still hasn't been made. There's 4 kings at lightweight plus Vasyl Lomachenko. None of those fights have been made. Like, I think they need to get their shit together and do what's right for the sport, not only the fans, but the sport and the fighters.
Yeah, I think it'll get worse before it gets better, unfortunately.
Me too. Yeah, because it hasn't gotten better. I've been a boxing fan pretty much my whole life. I haven't really followed it closely until like the last 12 years. But yeah, it's unfortunate, man.
Hopefully I think it'll change to something different before it fixes what it has right now. I think it'll evolve like what it is doing right now with evolving into celebrity boxing. I think it's evolving into what its new form is going to be for a minute, and what people are tuning in for the absolute biggest stars in boxing who are celebrities and celebrities. So basically, people want to see the more famous you are, the more exciting you are to listen to, and the more you can actually back it up in there. That's what people want to see. So that leaves a select few for boxing.
Right, yeah, select few, and it's like they never get made. It's like, it's so easy. And it almost happened a couple years ago when Tyson Fury took a fight that none of us thought he should have against Otto Wallin. He got that giant cut on his eye. Thank God the ref didn't stop it. He could have stopped that fight at any point. It was bleeding so bad. Thank God he didn't. Luckily, after that, we got the Wilder rematch and then trilogy. But
absolutely,
yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see where Fury goes from here. And
I never want to see Fury lose. I want to see him keep winning forever.
I think he will. I think the only thing that beats him is age. I really don't see anybody at heavyweight beating him.
I feel like he will stop too. Like, now that he's getting the big money paydays that no one is getting in boxing right now, I feel like he'll have a reason to stop at a reasonable age. He already came back and proven to himself, that he can come back after being in the worst shape possible, rock bottom, and come back and be the best again. What else do you want? So I feel like he'll win a few more here and there, maybe get a few more money fights, and then dip.
I think he did say something about retiring, honestly, like within the last year, saying he's going to walk away. And I wouldn't blame him. He's 31-0-1. I'd like to see him have a few more fights, but I couldn't blame him. He's beat everybody.
Absolutely.
And I think if anybody did have the best shot at beating him, it would be Wilder, just because of his shot selection and his power.
He'll probably do some funky cage boxing thing or something too, because he's been really
pushing for that.
Yeah, and trying to you see a lot of footage with him around like UFC guys and working UFC style training and
training with Darren Till and Nick Diaz and a whole bunch of guys. That would be super interesting. I mean, this heavyweight champion before, and Muhammad Ali did it.
Yeah, we could have it would almost be like Deontay Wilder versus Fury, but in cage boxing would be so cool to have.
It would.
To have Ngannou versus Fury. It would be just like Wilder Fury.
So you mean like boxing, but with MMA gloves in a cage?
Yeah, I know that's a stretch, and that it's probably very unlikely to happen, but this probably would have worked good in a fantasy matchup, a fantasy matchup video. But I would like to see something like that go down. I wouldn't mind full MMA. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I'd be super interesting to see that. There's something like that happening in one championship coming up. Demetrius Johnson is fighting Muay Thai legend Rod Tang something. I don't know what his last name or his first name is. but he's fighting a Muay Thai champion in a mixed rules fight. 1 round of MMA and 1 round of kickboxing. So that should
I
be
don't like
fun.
the mixed rules,
Me
but
either. It's
I
gonna be
do like to
interesting, though.
see MMA gloves and MMA style striking in cage
Yeah,
kickboxing,
I love
which
how
they
one
do
championship
that.
does that. Yeah,
It's
man.
almost like street beefs, how they're willing to like make agreements between the fighters to have
Mhm.
certain rule sets. And
Yeah.
that's why some of those fights are so crazy explosive, because they're not worried about takedowns or anything. They're just blasting full blast
Mhm.
at you.
Yeah, and I love watching stand-up fights with 4 ounce clubs. I always thought, like, they got bare knuckle boxing now. Why not bare knuckle kickboxing? Why not bare knuckle Muay Thai? I mean, I know they got left way, but why don't you take the headbutts out and have bare knuckle kickboxing? I think that would be a
Right.
great idea.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right, I think that about wraps it up for this video. Our next one that we're going to be doing is the best to never win a world title. Everybody, if you like the video, like and subscribe. I appreciate you for coming on, Tyler. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.